Hi, this is Sherman Crancer. I'm the president of Surveil. So today we're going to be going through a pretty quick demo here to kind of show you the power of this tool. So first thing to understand is what Surveil is. So Surveil is an AI-driven SaaS platform that uses read-only access to surface deep, actionable insights from your customers' Microsoft 365 and Azure environments. Due to the elasticity of Microsoft licensing, partners convert waste into value by optimizing costs, adoption, resources, and productivity. Surveil provides a multi-tenant management console to manage your customers' Azure and Microsoft 365 spend at scale. And then Microsoft partners use the multi-tenant tool to mine for professional services opportunities with our new Campaign Manager. Our Campaign Manager allows you to filter your clients at scale to see who needs remediation in Azure, Office 365, and security. Partners then filter their customers to see who needs security hardening, Azure Reserved Instance remediation, Azure AD cleanup, or any Office 365 upgrades. And the partners that we talk to and work with see a 4 times ROI in the first 6 months and increase customer spend by 20 to 30%. So our first step when managing clients is to run a health check assessment to create a baseline for optimization. And we run it on Office 365 and Azure. One thing to note is it doesn't matter what type of licensing environment they have, whether it's CSP, EA, or PayG, pay-as-you-go. So to onboard a client, it's pretty simple. You need a customer who has global admin access to their Active Directory and is the owner of the Azure subscription. We then walk through the customer through 5 clicks, which takes about 15 minutes. We then show them in their Azure Directory tenant where the application resides and the expiration. We then wait 2 weeks. Now what I'm going to do here is after 2 weeks, it actually comes out with the report. I'm going to show you a couple examples and where the professional opportunities actually are. So if you're taking a look at the screen, you're going to see in the first one, we have a sample Azure health check. Inside of here, we have low-end savings and high-end savings, and then we have a monthly savings. So in this case, it's anywhere between $3,000 and $6,000. Now, we always start with the low end because we want to make sure, we know with a 99.9% probability, we can hit that particular mark. Now, as you're working with your client over the year, you're going to be aiming for that high-end savings to actually help them out. Now, inside of here, you're going to get 6 key areas that we look at, right? Hybrid use benefit. In this case, you don't see any savings here. However, this would be one of your first professional services opportunities where you can help your client actually implement hybrid use benefit across their virtual machines if in case they do have a server cal on-prem with software assurance. Next, we're going to take a quick look at your reserved instances, and we'll be able to give them recommendations on that. And that's the second way that you're going to be making professional services, right? Remediation inside of that. Third, we look at zombie resources. We all know that when you delete resource groups and you might have leftover NSGs or virtual networks because of policies that you have there, and a lot of times people just kind of let things slide. So our tool will actually highlight the zombie resources. Now that is another professional services opportunity that you can do. Next is idle and oversight services. So one of the neat things about this product is it's going to be able to look at all of the data over the past year and find different virtual machines that may have been provisioned that are idle. And in this case, you see $3,100 per month across 45 devices. We can help out with cleanup. Now, as a partner, that's another way to actually create some professional services opportunities. The last 2 are VM optimization and storage optimization. A lot of times our clients are actually creating virtual machines that are way overpriced or way overdone, right? And you want to be able to help them out to make sure that they are, have the right machine in the right area. Another professional services opportunity. And then lastly, storage optimization. Now I'll give you an example to kind of tie this all together. We worked with an energy company just about 6 months ago. And when we talked to them, they had $15,000 in monthly Azure spend, and they had about 75 seats. Our very first question to them was, hey, tell us about your Azure spend and what are you using? And they told us they were using Azure VDI. And I said, gosh, that's a lot. And how many users do you have? And they said 75. And I said, okay, well, let's run this tool on you and see what's going on. So we ran the tool and we realized that they put their Azure Virtual Desktop instance in automatic mode, so it kept going 24 hours a day. There was no reserved instance involved, and they were doing it for individuals. So what this showed within a quick 2 weeks instance is we showed them an $8,000 a month in savings because we helped them reconfigure their VDI experience. So they came out of it, very, very happy, and they really loved the advice that we actually provided them. So in this slide 2, we'll also do a cost overview of all of the different subscriptions that they possibly have. Now, if we move over to the 365 health check, this is really good. We have to keep in mind that, with new NCE and or EA coverages, you're not going to see realized savings today, but you would in the Azure health check. Here in 365, we're going to be looking at a few different things to help them out. So in this case, 36% versus 45%, anywhere between $300 and $3,800 in savings. But there's 3 main categories that we look at, which is unassigned licenses value, age and inactive accounts, and license reclassification, right? We show these different instruments. But we also will take a quick look at their joiners and leavers. And this is your very first professional services opportunity where you can take a look at their Active Directory. And we see this a lot where you see active 283 identities, but you're seeing between 96 and 340 that don't have any activity over the next over 180 days. Well, this is a very big security concern, and you need to close this actual barn door, right? You have identities that are out there that hackers can try to place. So this is your number one, very first thing to do with most clients is, hey, let's put together a professional service engagement where we can help you with cleanup. So that's our first part of the report. Our second part of the report is we're going to get to understand their total Active Directory accounts, what are active in the last 30 days, and some of their external accounts that they have. Lastly, we're going to go into the high-level licensing summary, where we'll actually take a look at the high-level, the top 10 licenses that they actually have. And in this case, we're going to see Office 365 E3, Enterprise Mobility Security E3, right? But we're going to see what's been percentage consumed. What is the percentage of the consumed have been active, right? Consumed and unused. And then what it's going to do is actually going to tell you what the consumed value is and then give you a cost, right, of what it is, unassigned license value, and then tell you, okay, the monthly investment is $4,885 that we might be able to recoup. This also gives us telemetry on what type of licensing they have, so we can actually combine this licensing, upgrade to M365 E5 or E3 or E5, use the Do More with Less coupon, and actually put them in about the same price that they currently have. So that's kind of what we do on the Microsoft 365 front. Now, the third leg of this tool is actually the security tool. So we have a nice 17-page report, but what we'll do is we actually run a secure score scan, right? So in this case, we notice there's a 21.4% secure score. We have 78% improvements available outside of this. And what this tells us is they're not really utilizing those Office 365 or EMS accounts. They're not doing. There's a lot of opportunities for improvements available. Now, when the customer buys the SaaS product, you can run these security reports every single month, and it'll identify many different professional service opportunities, such as in our security overview, we're going to be looking at a few areas here that are pretty key. One, conditional access policies. In this case, we see 0 policy events, $1.2 million policy applications signed in, 20 days of activity. But what's interesting here is they have 3 conditional access policies. We know they should have between 17 and 18, and actually the 3 are defaults. They're not even using any CAP policies. They need to figure that out, right? That's another professional services opportunity there. In this case, if you look at authentication methods, we're going to identify the authentication methods. 97.77 are not MFA capable. Well, why? Because we haven't turned on that feature. We'll also take a look at devices. One of the neat things about our program is that we can actually identify all the devices that are on the network, and actually down to the serial number, down to when it's been used, last been used, the date it's been used, how old it is for device refresh. And or you can then use this for another professional services opportunity to help them say, let's enroll all the devices, or maybe at least the active ones. You have 93 already in. Why don't you have the other 314 there? We also give them a light little look at the total threats, 49 there. And then this is the one that really hits the mark here. We'll find out how many admin roles have no multi-factor authentication. So those are really the 2 parts that really help solidify this quick assessment. And this assessment only takes 2 weeks, but it does indicate where we are going to find professional services opportunities using this actual tool. Next, I'm going to show you the actual demo here, and we'll go through each and every one and how this will actually help you with your clients. All right, so here's the actual demo. So the first thing to note here, and this is coming out in V3, which is next month, is that we actually can use this as a multi-tenant tool. From the outside, if we go back to the very beginning when we sign in with our tool, we actually have a list of our companies that are actually located here. And what I'm going to do is select the actual demo. But you can use this as a multi-tenant tool to onboard all of your customers, half of your customers, a third of your customers. You can use it to onboard on and off for several months if you want to. But the main thing is, how do you utilize this tool to manage all of your clients at scale and use this to mine data to find professional services opportunities? So for example, in this tool, I'm going to show you, we first start off with Azure, and we actually click into the overview. So when I'm working with a client, I'll actually sit here, and the first thing I do is I click on overview, and it's going to pull up the 60,000 foot view of Azure by itself, right? So as it comes up here, you're going to see a menu that is located right over here that we can actually just dive in at a 60,000 foot view. So we start out and says, okay, you have 14 subscriptions. Your total cost to date is $62,000 with about $15,000 in the previous month. And these are your total costs by subscriptions, your total spend. So it really gives you a real nice overview, right? And you can create alerts that you can actually find in here to help control spend. But what if you wanted to just say, let's go to my subscriptions. I'm going to click into subscriptions because I want to see all my subscriptions and then to see the data that goes behind it. So this uses Power BI embedded. And one of the neat things that is part of our tool is that we can actually go down to the actual data center. So in this case, I'm going to Global Dev. I'm clicking on UK South. And then when it comes up with UK South, it will actually tell us all of the resources that are actually being utilized, and then gives us our cost comparison, right? It tells us, okay, back in July, here you go, and you see the red versus the green. The green is like, okay, that's good, but the red tells us that we've seen a material change, or we've seen an increase in our actual spend, and this is where you want to go. Well, let's say you're thinking, well, that's great and all, I've actually looked at the subscription, but maybe I want to look at resource groups individually. So you can use this tool to actually say, go into all the resource groups. So it's going to list all the different resource groups that you actually have. And you can say, well, gosh, this is a pretty big one, this top one. I want to go see what's inside that resource group. So when we drill down into it, we can go into our West US, and it's going to tell us the Power BI embedded. What are our costs that are associated with Power BI embedded, right? Or it's storage or backup. So we know what's inside that resource group, and then we can use this data to find actionable insights, right? To do that. Or we can say, you know something, I want to check on a geography because I've got an international footprint, and I want to see where my resources and where the costs are based on the data center that I'm actually taking a look at. So we'll actually see all these different items right here. If you're a global organization like ourselves, you'll see that. Or we can say, let's go to resource costs. Let's take a look at what are our highest costs that we actually spend, within this particular subscription group, and it's actually listed by metered category. We can actually see that total cost, premium SSDs. We can actually look at the different areas, right, that are actually part of this, and we have some pop-ups to kind of help you understand that. One of the main things about this tool that separates us is our tagging engine. So one of the things most customers don't do is tag correctly. And we're going to use our AI machine learning engine to actually create asset tags for anything that is not created already to really help figure out. And we use Microsoft nomenclature to start that out, and then we actually implement that. Now, your customer can take advantage of that if they want, where we can actually download the tags and you can upload it into their directory. But from our perspective, that's how we do it. Second part of the tool is recommendations. And I think this is when I'm working with a customer, the first thing I like to do actually is I go into recommendations. What recommendations is going to do, it's going to go ahead and create a view of everything, top level, top end summary of optimization opportunities. Now, you're not necessarily looking at this as the end all be all, but this really helps us when we're trying to figure out what to do, right? And it's very simple to go ahead and drill down. For example, virtual machine optimization. We can literally click into VM optimization, and it's going to list all the VMs. It's going to list where they're located. It's going to say resource name. Is it on an RI? No. Is there an RI review recommended? Yes. And then is there a change advised? Then we're going to take a look at the total cost previous month, the CPU usage, and then the memory minimum and maximum. And then we provide the actual intelligent action item what to do. For example, change VM size from standard D4 SVP to standard B4 MS to reduce cost by X amount of dollars, 27 in that case, or the top ones by $88.27. So now we're in the VM optimization. We talked about how you can use this tool. Now these are all professional service opportunities, right, to re-enumerate. Well, let's go back a little bit, back to the recommendation summary. And in the recommendation summary, we can go into, let's say, reserved instances. We found some opportunities. So you'll be able to click into this with your customer, and you'll actually be able to show all of the different VMs that could actually have consider an RI based on the way that they're actually utilizing these resources, which becomes another way to engage back with your client. If I go back, as we kind of talked about in those sample health checks, we can then go into any one of these areas, right? So we have idle and oversight services. We can click through. Now this is using Power BI embedded. And for example, this one right here, global production, idle disk, right? There's an idle disk that's just actually just sitting there, and we can go ahead and get rid of it. Another thing that we can quickly look at is like SQL Server resizing. No other tool in the country or in the world really provides SQL resizing, as well as also taking a look at all of your data disks. So really the thing to understand here, it's a data mining tool, right, to help find areas for optimization within your client base. Right. So the next thing I'm going to show you here is quickly is financial operations. So this is really great too, because this is another way that we'll utilize this to identify opportunities to engage, right? We'll actually look at financial management based on the subscriptions that are actually there, as well as the data that we're going to be able to find, right? So when this pulls up, you're going to see a great look at Azure usage, CSP reservation offers, Azure top 10 cost by meter category. We can take a look at that, right? Or what we can do is do a previous month comparison in Azure to take a look at what different areas have gone up or gone down based on the last month, right? As you can tell here, this just gets a lot more granular, right? So we can go into CSP reservations and take a look at all the reservations in CSP or in an EA, depending on that. Or we can actually go into cost, top to bottom, right? Top 10 system name or system type. Now, where this tool really works, okay, is when you're using this as a multi-tenant tool, okay, that actually, and then use our campaign manager to filter for these across the board, right? So what you can end up doing is filter using our campaign manager for all the organizations that have a more than 20% increase in total spend inside of Azure, right? It's very simple to list. If you had 100 clients on, it would list 10. Now you've identified those 10. Those are 10 people your business development reps can go send out and actually say, hey, look, we've noticed that you've had a significant increase. We'd like to help you understand that or look at that, right? Or now this is another really great feature that we have. Kubernetes and Databricks, we're one of the only companies that actually can and will be able to help you understand your Kubernetes or Databricks deployment and give you a recommendation, right? So that's really kind of how you would look at Azure. Now, if I quickly pop over to Office 365, it's very much the same thing. It's overview. Now, where we want to reiterate is that data mining is the way to identify opportunities to re-engage at scale, because you can take all of your clients. You no longer have to go into individual clients, open up their bills, take a look at what they have, log into their tenant. You basically log into this tenant by itself. So what it does within the overview, it gives us a really nice look at cost optimization available and what we can do, such as unassigned licenses, unused licenses, or other optimization opportunities. We can literally just click through, and this is where it's going to show us a great detailed area of the licenses, unassigned license count, unassigned license value, and tell us what we can actually do. It'll also give us all of the information based on active license review, who are disabled and active, aged and disabled, aged and unused. And this is another way that you can help your client understand their licensing a lot better, right? By looking at these different data points that are coming up. Inside of our overview, though, 60,000 square foot view, we can take a look at identities, right? Just give a really high level understanding of your identities and where they're at. We can also take a look at joiners and leavers, and this is a big thing because most folks don't have a very clean Active Directory environment, and you want to be able to quickly find that. You can use a campaign manager to say, identify all the companies I'm working with that have more than 10% identities that have not been active 180 days or more. And then it would list out of your 100 clients, maybe these are 6 that need remediation right away, which is actually really, really fantastic. So that's the main thing there. Office applications, we can drive into Office applications, no problem, as well as licenses. So you can kind of take a look at that. Now, FinOps is a big thing when it comes to Office 365, and when we click into our licensing costs, we have utilization versus cost, we have users cost, and analytics. And the first thing it's actually going to come up with is going to give us a real overview of all of the different licenses, just like we said, and what they're being used, how they're being used, and what are potential unassigned licensing values, right? As well as the top 5 by purchase cost. So we can take a look at all of the licenses per client, right? We can also look at a license overview trend of what's going on here, right? Or what we can do is we can do productivity licenses by line of business or by country, or license detail view by SKU. So we click on that, we can get into the different SKUs very, very simply, very, very quickly, and have a great idea of what's going on. So data mining is the key to figuring out how you can help your organization or help your client really optimize what they're actually utilizing in there. So one of the neat options that we have here is to illustrate how we can find data in seconds. For example, if your client has a lot of disabled accounts with licenses, we'll tell them what the potential savings is per month, potential savings is per year. But if you want to know the details, all you have to do is do one click, and now you see all of those people that are disabled accounts with licenses. Tells you what the trigger event, right? Disabled with licenses, lax activity was 2022, and then it gives you the action: deallocate license or remove user. That's really important, right? Deallocate or remove user. So very, very simple, very quick, and you can download this and actually implement it. Or if you want to go to inactive users, very simple. Okay, boom, let's click on that. Tells us all of the inactive users, what was the trigger activity, no activity past 30 days, tells us what we can save, and then tells you what to do on the analytics. Really, really amazing ability to get data very, very fast. Now, we have all sorts of different things, and I could spend another 2 hours actually going over it, but those are the highest level data points. Now, the third thing that is really fantastic is our security assessment. Now, Microsoft has invested in our security assessment so much so that we are actually a vetted security assessment tool for Microsoft. So you can actually go to Microsoft, use our security assessment tool, and it's funded by Microsoft if you want to use it by itself. What this does is it takes a snapshot of your secure score to start, right? So it's a good start here, 67.3%. But over here on the right-hand side, it tells us what the improvements are available. So identity, apps, data, but you can drill in very quickly, and we can click into this and say, hey, you know something? These are some areas that we want to help you, help harden your security. So once again, this is another way to engage, to create a professional service opportunity, is to say on a monthly basis, you can actually, contact the customer with these different ideas to harden their security, right? And that's on devices. But what if we wanted to go into apps? Tells us what our secure score is, and if we click on any one of these, it's going to tell us what the remediation is and then the remediation impact. So our partners are utilizing this to go ahead and help their clients harden their secure score. Now we also give them the security at a glance, which we mentioned in the health check. But inside the security at a glance, we can actually drill down into this. For example, if I want to look at my total threats, I can click into and actually tell them activity policy, multiple failed user logon attempts to app was triggered by X. Okay, it tells you who it was, count event, the category, tells us all these things. So great on security with understanding, what's going on internally. We can look into devices, into managed devices. If you click on that, it's going to tell us all of the actual the identities of them, what their OS version is, Windows, into managed, is it not managed, right? User objective, manufacturer, and we can really get into the details of what are compliant and uncompliant. So this is, once again, another opportunity to mine that customer base, right? Also, we'll look at admin roles with no MFA, which is a big, huge deal right inside that. Now, why Microsoft liked our actual tool was based on our ability to help them with Office 365, or going from Office 365 E3 to the premium SKUs M365 E3 and E5 by reducing third-party overlap. So what we do is we'll send the customer an attestation document where they'll actually list all of the third-party apps that they currently have. We'll take those third-party apps and we'll ingest it and do a cross-comparison of what they currently have. Okay? Then we'll go into license management. And in this case, this is where you can actually sit with your customer and plan, license management. What if we were to highlight this, right? Or it's going to actually show you in here what you're currently using, M365 E5, who's been assigned, who's adopted it, right? It's going to tell us what the remediation and classification is, right? So this is a kind of an eye test, but you can use this to go ahead and help your clients understand what they're paying for and what not. Now, where the money hits the road is on investment returns, and this is where we see something awesome. We're actually going to show the client, number one, what are some of the costs remaining, what are some of the optimization, right, we're going to help them with, but also third-party costs. In this case, it's $44,000. Now, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, but there are some scenarios where they're paying over and over again. So now we can go over here to our planning tool. We click on our planning tool, and we can actually select, right, some of the SKUs that we want to replace, right? We want to add a few more M365 E3 or E5s, we'll put 100 in there, right? And what this is going to do is going to change all of the optimization results. But now look right here. If we want to kick out Carbon Black, McAfee, and let's say we kick out AirWatch, on the right-hand side, see where it says 44,000? Now it's going to show them 0 because we kicked them out and we're utilizing their resources a lot better. So partners are using this to help consolidate, to upgrade to the Microsoft 365 E3 and E5. So that's really the quick and easy demonstration of this actual tool. And what we'd like to do is actually just schedule an appointment with us so we can actually give you demo credentials to actually play around in it, as well as talk to you about the value of the multi-tenant view as well as the campaign view, where you can actually mine at scale your opportunities. Thank you so much, and really appreciate you taking a look at this.